And 3, 2, 1.
Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Welcome to another edition of Yippee-Ki-Yay, Mother Podcast. What's going on, Mother Podcasters? You bunch of precious idiots.
Precious,
Unbelievable.
my precious.
It's funny. Okay, let's talk. John got to pick this film. So we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to do a round of what you watch like we always do. And then we'll pick the next. We'll spin for the next person. We may end up with another one of these, but we'll see. Whoever, it depends on who lands. So, having said all this, John, what film did you bring to the table?
Well, before we do that, Ralph, I'd like to acknowledge two deaths.
Yes.
Norman Jewison passed away, great director, and Gary Graham, who was in the series Alien Nation and did a lot of Star Trek.
All right.
He just passed I think he was 71 years old. Died unexpectedly, and I don't know if we talked about it last
Very
week.
young.
If we did, I apologize. David Soul from Starsky and Hutch also passed away.
Yeah.
So just a couple of
a lot of soul.
rest in peace, everybody. So
there's one more as well. David MG. He was the helicopter pilot turned zombie in Dawn of the Dead.
Ooh,
did not
when he
know
turned
that.
into a zombie, he kind of looked like David Warner, which is funny.
Oh,
but he was a very memorable part of that film. And I don't know that he did anything else much of note, but he's part of horror history, and he died.
He got taken out in the elevator, right? They got him in the elevator of that
The
film.
doors open, and his hair dissolves on the side, and he's got blood everywhere. Yeah.
Well,
what
rest
a great
in peace.
film.
Great film.
So
Great film.
here's the deal. And I'm still, and I told Ralph this, the more I think about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the angrier I got about it. Because I kept thinking about the film and things that I just despised in that movie. And it just was
You
killing
were kind
me.
of okay with it.
I was, but you know what? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Because I'll tell you what else I did. I know I'm getting off track a little bit. I rewatched Raiders of the Lost Ark. And
Is that any good?
it's just, after watching that, I couldn't stop thinking about the Dial of Destiny, and it just made me angry. So, in response, and it was vicious on my part, I'm not going to lie, I had Ralph watch the first in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Fellowship of the Rings, and it's the extended edition. And when before he watched it, he looked it up. And what was it, 3 hours and what, Ralph?
347.
347, and he was not happy about it. And then he looked at the running times of the other two extended editions.
Yeah, the last one's 4 hours long.
And he said, I'm
It
not
only
going to
has
watch
an
it.
extra hour and 4 minutes in that one, but you won't
you
want
guys-
to say goodbye.
let's-
That's why it's nice to have all that extra time.
The original film, the original cut of it had 18 endings. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it's a victory lap.
Yeah.
The
Well,
original
book
cut
did
of
too.
which one? The third
Return
one?
of the King.
Return of the King.
Yeah, it has a lot
It
of
had
endings
so
already.
many freaking endings. You're like,
It
oh, the
legitimately
movie's
had,
over,
like,
the music
4
swelled.
Yeah, there was.
Oh,
But that
no.
was in the book, though. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so
It actually
I,
doesn't even, we'll get to it, I'm sure, but it doesn't even have the actual ending of the book.
The book,
in it,
yeah.
so
There's a huge sequel.
We'll see. We'll see. I
After-
suspect we'll
and
get
See,
there.
this,
after
I know
credits
I
scene.
got Lord of the Ring nerds here. I can just tell everybody's read the
well,
book.
look, let me
I
just
read
say,
the books when I was a kid.
so I said,
I used to
Ralph,
write stuff in runes on my notebooks.
you need
Okay,
to
you
get a
win.
life. So anyway, we decided, because we're all Lord
Ganged
of the
up.
Rings
Ganged
fans,
up. Yep.
and Ralph isn't, because he doesn't like the hairy feet. Now, he's never seen them, which boggles my mind. Because forget about the books, forget about the fantasy story. From a filmmaking standpoint, it's just an amazing trilogy. It's every movie is amazing, topped off with Return of the King. So we had Ralph watch the extended versions. Now, we were gonna
Only
make-
of this one. I haven't watched the 3 yet.
we were gonna make him, if we all got the other picks, we were gonna pick the next two movies, but we're not gonna do that because that's painful to Ralph. I don't want you not.
So you unilaterally made that decision, or did you talk to everybody else?
Well, let's see. When you
He has
said to
not
me,
talked to everyone
if you
else.
pick those films, I will not watch them. Yeah, I kind of
John,
made the
I
choice.
say a
that-
lot of
what's
things
the
to
point?
you off the podcast that I don't.
Oh, so you're not denying it. All right, well, let me
No, I'm
finish.
not
will ya?
denying.
Can I
I'm
just
not-
do my? Oh,
No,
wait,
but
this
I
is that-
okay.
This is that banter you want.
Hold on. Before you,
Yeah.
let me just say one thing, and this is the truth. Ralph, if John did not like you in the way that you think he feels making you watch this movie, he would have asked you to watch the Hobbit trilogy.
Which I would
He
not
loves
do.
you. He loves you and wants to share fantastic
would not
films
do
that
that.
have
No,
have very
he
feet.
knows. He knows I did not want to watch this
Just
Right.
like you knew.
So
But the Hobbit is
yeah,
is
and
a
I'm not
problem.
done with you.
Can
pal.
I say-
I have a suggestion for our.
And let me tell you something else. This film is 1,000 times better than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
So
that's-
let's start with that.
in your
Well,
opinion.
Yeah, let's raise the bar a little, maybe, if we're going to discuss this film.
Thank you. So
Okay, I don't
so
agree with that. But
When I was in high school, I read The Hobbit, which I absolutely loved. It's one book. It should have been one movie. It should never have been three. That's a side point.
Did you read it in the early 70s like I did?
I
wait,
read
is
it.
the Hobbit? Is the Hobbit what this is based on?
No, the Hobbit is basically a prequel book. So that you read the Hobbit,
Yeah.
and it was really sold as a book to kids, and then
That's
there's
right.
things that are mentioned in it that then afterwards, like Bilbo,
Okay.
who you meet at the beginning of the movie, it's his story of how he
Bilbo's
found
a
the ring and everything.
Hobbit, right?
The Hobbit.
Yeah,
he's
Ian-
he's
Ian
the old
Holmes-
Hobbit.
Ian Holmes'
Ian
character.
Holmes is a
Yeah.
Hobbit.
The movie is a prequel, but the book, The Hobbit, came out was published 12 years before.
Right. It's not. That's
Right.
fair. It's not published as a prequel, but it's a story that takes place before the events
We
of the
got
Lord of
it
the
in a
Rings
box
trilogy.
set with all
That's
four
right.
books.
But if you're
Right,
young,
I had to get the Silmarillion.
I
later.
read it in 5th grade, and it's definitely a book for a younger person, where the Lord of the Rings trilogy is not for young people. In fact, I tried reading it in 10th grade. I could not get through it. I only read it after I saw the trilogy. Then I said, I'm going to read the books again. And I'm
A lot
so
of people
glad I
did that. I think I talked
Yeah.
to some people.
Well, I
about
think the
this.
movies got people who
Yeah.
didn't know about it to say, I want to read the books. Because I will say this. This is one of the best book adaptations of any film I've ever seen. I mean, they don't do everything, but they come pretty damn close to putting everything in there. And there's no way they could put everything. The movies would be 6 hours long. But this is a real faithful adaptation of the books. And it was a real gamble for New Line Cinema, because every other studio turned this down, and they pumped a lot of money into this. And it was the producer. I don't know who the producer's name is, but they decided that New Line will let you do all three films, but you got to film them all at once. And they were willing to give them the money, and it worked, because if they spread it out over time, obviously the cast would have aged. It wouldn't have been right. And Viggo Mortensen got cast in this a week before production, because Stuart Townsend.
3 weeks after production started.
3 weeks after it started,
Yeah.
because they were all in New Zealand, right? Stuart Townsend was supposed to play him. They filmed some stuff with him. Nobody liked him. It didn't work. They brought him in. In fact, his first day in New Zealand was the first day he actually shot.
All right, so John, okay, just let's give me the plot of the film.
Okay, the plot
No,
is...
I'm kidding. Please.
No,
don't do that.
everybody knows the plot, but I will say it's a fantasy film, and it's about good versus evil, and the whole film is about they have to get this one ring to Mount Doom and throw it in the fires. That's the only way they can stop this evil that is taking over man, elves, dwarves, and it's the journey that takes you from when he first gets the ring, Frodo, from Bilbo,
one ring to
till
control
one
them
ring
all.
to control them all. But it's just for people who aren't in I mean, look, at these movies were all hugely successful. So people who necessarily aren't into fantasy films like you, Ralph, still went, because it was an event. It really was a spectacle. And after the first one came out and was so successful, people were just jonesing for the next two. And they got better and better and bigger and bigger. My only complaint about the films, that the last film especially, and this is something that I talk about in Indian films too, I found the CGI in the third film, they relied a little too much on CGI than they did in the first two, because there's a lot of practical stuff in the first two films. Like even the armor. I mean, if you ever see the making of this film, even the armor had weight to it. You know what I mean? It wasn't fake.
But it was real. It was all real.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's
films.
not talk about the third film. Let's just stick
Well,
with this one.
I'm trying to tie it all together.
I understand.
But it's the introduction of all the characters.
Yeah.
It's the journey that happens.
Yeah.
It's you realize these cute little furry hobbits.
Settle down, Ralph.
End
Let's
up.
just get to it. I mean, let's just get to it.
Okay, Ralph. You know what? I'm not gonna. I want to hear.
I mean,
I want to hear what you think about the film because everybody knows the story. Everyone's
yeah,
seen the movies other than you.
I'm sure.
So you tell
I'm
me.
sure everyone but me loved this film.
Wait a minute. I hear something.
What is that?
Oh, nice.
I hear
It's not
it's
blue. We'll be okay.
Yeah, it is blue. It's turning blue. You can't see it though.
No, I can't see it.
Orcs are near.
With your old camera, I could probably see it.
What is wrong with you?
What?
What? That's
Sting.
Bilbo's
Ralph,
sword
that's
Sting.
Sting.
It turns blue
That's
when orcs
Sting.
are near. Come
I'm
on,
sure
man.
you've seen Sting before.
Okay,
Ralph, I'm sorry.
So I sat for 3.5 hours, watched this film. Okay,
You said it was 3 hours and 48. So how did you sit
350,
for
whatever
3.5?
it was. Okay.
All right.
I was waiting for what's the Gollum?
Bathroom break.
Gollum.
I heard about Gollum. Precious. Yeah. I mean, he's hinted that she is hinted throughout. Never saw it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Viggo Mortensen in anything he does. So I love him. Sean Bean, like I like the human, the regular human characters in
Boromir and Aragorn.
Those guys. Okay, yeah. Sean Bean.
Ralph, you can call Aragorn Strider if that's easier for you.
All I'm saying is Viggo Mortensen's the shit. I could watch him do anything.
Indeed, he is.
Indeed, he does.
Look. I understand the cultural impact this film had. And as I taught, and I went on, John, I went on your favorite guy's YouTube channel, the Critical Drinker, and it triggered something. It helped me appreciate the film, which was a series or a franchise that came out in the late 90s. I think the first one's 2001, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We grew up with franchises: Star Wars, Back to the Future. You know, look at all and the 90s kids, the 90s kids didn't have, and this is what his point was, they didn't have a franchise that they could latch onto. Star Wars came out later, it wasn't the same. And this one came out, and I think all these kids probably read this book. A lot of them read it after they saw the first film, I think, and really got into it. And they really appreciate what this franchise did for their childhood. These people, like I was talking to guys who were like 35, 36, 37 at work, and I'm saying I don't understand why this film was so important to everybody. And they basically said, look, this is the franchise that we all grew up on and loved. And I guess the films get better as it goes on, because not having seen it, I was expecting a lot more. I cannot stand all the fighting with whatever monsters grabbing. What was the main characters? The ring, the kid with the ring. What's his?
Frodo.
Okay,
He's with the ring.
He's getting wrapped by snakes and grabbed by things and banging his head. Nobody ever gets hurt in this until they need some big scene like Sean Bean getting the arrows in his chest. I think Viggo Mortensen dies down, Gandalf, but he comes back. I know he's not dead. He's only in the shadow. Okay. Yeah. It's all that stuff drives me insane. Like, everybody knows all the lore about everything they're walking into. They walk into this cave and there's this, and the furry feet drive me absolutely insane. The whole time I'm thinking, these guys are walking around in a forest like this. Okay. But I appreciate. Would
you like to see a hairy foot long?
And I can't. Oh my God! I'm actually wanting to watch the other ones. Now, if you guys want me to watch them, please don't make me watch the extended versions. Just let me watch what came on in the theaters that everybody appreciated. Yeah. Because I've been told that they get better.
Well, they do.
Because this one just ended. The Frodo goes off in the boat, and it's like his little buddy Sam. What's his name?
Samwise Gamgee.
Who I loved in Toy Soldiers. Okay, the kid was great, and Rudy,
he was great in this.
he's okay, but
he gets to play in the game.
It's just this one was not for me. There's no way.
Well, this was the setup movie.
I'm saying I know the other ones are going to be better. I'm still not going to. I can't stand the flying dragons and the firecrackers that turn into dragons, and it's just too much.
Well, I'll tell you. Let me
go ahead.
Speak.
I'm done.
Let me speak. I'll tell you what. So I was sort of a Lord of the Rings nerd. I read Hobbit very young, and I read the other 3 books, very young as well. And as I said, I would even like draw the runes and tried to learn the language, in my notebooks in high school. So I was kind of a nerd. And, you know,
That's an understatement.
and then there was let's not forget the animated version of it.
Ralph
That was
Bakshi or Bakshi?
Bakshi, the guy who did Fritz the Cat.
Rankin Bass did The Hobbit and Return of the
yeah.
King, and Ralph Bakshi did A Lord of the Rings, which was basically the first book and some, I think.
Well, yes,
It's the first half. If you literally get to the battle, the big battle at the end of in the second book.
Helm's Deep.
Then Helm's Deep, yeah. And then the movie just ends. I have the Lord of the Rings. I have all
Talking about the Ralph Bakshi one?
Yeah, the Ralph Bakshi.
The weird psychedelic rotoscoping. All that
with all the rotoscoping.
And you know, the version that should have been made, the Beatles wanted to do that as their third film. And they wanted to get Kubrick to direct it. But
they wanted to do Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Really?
John playing Gandalf and all the people. Yeah, they were.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to play the four lead characters.
Bilbo, get over here, Bilbo. What are you doing, Bilbo?
Bilbo, take this little tab. You know, but you know, so there was a sense of everything when you finally saw this movie, if you were a nerd like me, of just seeing this movie visualized. And he's done such a great job, you know, of like the Shire and all these places. And when I first saw this film, I found it incredibly exciting. It also helped that this was also the time that, like, you know, massive multiplayer online games were taking off too, like EverQuest and all, which are these big fantasy games. And, you know, if you played those games, and I did play those games, you know, this was like seeing one of these games too as well. So there was a lot going on for it culturally, and I really thought this was a great film when I first saw it. But now, you know, it is the introduction. I mean, there's a lot of suspenseful things, like when they're running from the ring race in the beginning, and then the battle with the cage troll and things like that in the last battle there. There are a number of suspenseful things, but it's more, a lot of this is more suspense than the other films are more set pieces all the time. You know, the other films are much more action oriented, and I'm going to go with I think the second film, Two Towers, is the best of the three. That's films. My favorite.
Yeah,
you know, the third one is a really good film, but it does what Peter Jackson has a problem with, in my opinion, of giganticism. You know, it's like too much. You know, there's a certain amount that's great, and then you add a little more, and it's like, okay, a little more, and then it's like, too much. It's like plastic surgery. But I don't, like, the people get the plastic surgery, they don't figure out it's too much until it's done, you know, because that looks good, you know, and I mean, I think the last film's great, but it just wasn't as good as the second one, and God, if you want to see something horrible, King Kong, which I think he said was his favorite movie, you know, it's sort of like if you looked at the original film, if there was one Brontosaurus, he put in 15. Right. You know what I mean? It's like and you know, what was King Kong, 80 minutes long, and that one was like 3.5 hours. It's sort of like
crazy.
It was just too much. But the worst. But
you don't feel that about these. These are fine.
Well, let me get to the extended versions of these in a second. But oh my God, you know, Drew was very accurate when he said, you know, your brother did you a favor. He didn't make you watch the Hobbit movies. The Hobbit movie, that animated film was like the perfect length in it. Yeah. I mean, what is this, 9 hours through that one book? And there are absolutely no stakes whatsoever. And it's so CGI. You never get the sense that anyone is in danger at all at any time in that movie. I remember I saw it in the theaters, but then we used to have some movie nights here. And a friend of mine brought the Blu-ray over, and we watched it, and when he left, I saw he left a Blu-ray, and I'm like, hey, you left a Blu-ray? He's like, yeah, you keep it. He just didn't.
This is the Hobbit?
Yeah, part one. He's like, he just didn't feel the need.
Now, does the Hobbit take place? The Hobbit takes place before these?
Before this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where Bilbo gets the ring that he passes to Frodo. Yeah. Okay. And he meets Gandalf for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And also, too, I will say one thing, and maybe this is me, and maybe Ralph can give a better opinion because he wasn't familiar with the material. I think the characters in this film are all very well defined. Even even the minor hobbits.
Merry
You
and
know,
Pip.
yeah, Mary and Pip and all. I think, they're all very well defined, and that's the main problem. One of the problems with The Hobbit, the movies, is there's all those dwarves, and other than the king, I couldn't tell one from the other. I didn't
Yeah, but
know.
we're not. We gotta
Yeah,
focus on
yeah,
Fellowship.
but this is, to me, this is like a brilliant start for this trilogy.
Right.
It defines the characters really well. And when I first saw it, I thought it was exciting and action-packed until the other films came. Now, this is the first time I've seen the extended versions, and I am not a fan, generally speaking, of extended versions at all. Like I'm pissed off. Like one of my favorite films is The Wild Bunch, and it has the director's cut on it. The theatrical cut of the film was so much better. And like one of my favorite films of all times, Apocalypse Now. Oh my God, that Apocalypse Redux where they add in all that footage and that French plantation sequence. Everything they had cut out of that movie stopped it dead in its tracks, And this film wasn't quite that bad, but it's sort of like you're listening to an album that you're so familiar with, and you know every song and you know every note. So you're sitting there watching a movie, and then suddenly, the scene goes on a little longer, and they start talking about stuff, and you're like, whoa, 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 what just happened here? It's like 5 extra lines here.
Yeah, so then why would you guys? I don't understand the purpose of me seeing the extended versions. But anyway, that's fine.
No, but it's like,
I mean, let's hear from Chris and Drew.
Yeah, I just want to say, of all the extended scenes, the only ones I thought were of any value was when they were given those gifts before they left the last.
And they explained each one.
That's a beautiful scene, and that pays off down the line in the other 2 films. And
but
when
other than that,
the gifts come into play in the story,
I cannot wait to
that
see
connection
that
to Galadriel, it's beautiful.
Yeah. She was great.
Everything
She was
else
great.
I could live without, frankly.
Liv, what's her name? Liv Tyler.
Tyler.
She was great.
Well, they got their gifts from
All
Kate
right.
Blanchett.
The two. Okay, I want to hear from you two.
Well, for me, I love these films. I love the extended ones. I like the theatrical.
How old were you when you saw them the first time?
I was, what was that, 2001? So I was like in my late 20s.
Okay.
And for me, and I grew up with Star Wars, man, and all that stuff. But like, my father read me The Hobbit, and he also read me The Lord of the Rings. I read them both
Nice, good
myself.
dad.
Yeah. My dad's great. He's a beast. And but I also read them later. So I was almost in this perfect spot because when I read the novels in high school again, I think. So it had been over a decade since I had really seen anything to do with the Lord of the Rings. So I remember the broad strokes of it and everything. But so seeing it visualized and so well visualized, and one thing I really do like about Fellowship, that I think that the other 2 do suffer from a little bit, is that there's so much more practical stuff because Jackson knew that the the computer animation, that he uses in the movie, is a little janky. So he uses it as sparingly as possible, so you get a ton of really great practical effects and like models and things like that in the in the Fellowship of the Ring. I just love this film. I mean, I thought it did a great job of like pumping up the action in some sequences, like the whole thing with them escaping the Shire with the Black Riders. They really did pump up the action there. I mean, there's some of those sequences happen like straight out of the book, like the scene when they're hiding below the tree. That all happens right out of it. But the parts where they're running to the ferry and leaping onto the ferry wasn't quite so action packed. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong. They were out there, they were looking for them, and they were escaping. But there's all this other, there's like, that whole sequence is like you said, if they put it all in there, there'd be another 45 minutes just from them getting from that ferry to the town. But that being said, I think the casting is terrific. I mean, I love Sean Bean. I thought he was great as Boromir. The funny thing is, in rewatching it, I couldn't help but think to myself, okay, so Boromir goes a little nuts. He does the wrong thing there at the end, but you get it. You feel he's like, my people are the one that are out there fighting and dying, and let's use it. This is a gift and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I really like Boromir. I get it why he has to go, but it's such a great scene. And of course it's Sean Bean, so he has to die, right? I mean, that's kind of his thing. And But yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I think like I've always liked, and the funny thing about it is with these books is like my father is not at all like a fantasy guy. He likes westerns and he likes baseball, right? That's what he likes. His favorite movie is Hombre with Paul Newman, which is amazing.
Not
But
a lot of
he
baseball in that one, but it's a good movie.
exactly. But
How
he
long?
loves
How long did it take him to? How long did it take him to read that to you?
He finished last week.
I mean, it's not like The Hobbit. I can't
The
even
Hobbit,
imagine it.
The Hobbit took a few months, but the Lord of the Rings literally took, I want to say probably, if not two, probably close to 2 years.
Wow.
Because
I
we
mean,
didn't do
that's, you know
everything
what,
in one
and
night.
that says what what I'm getting from people who I talk, because I asked a lot of people because I was not getting it. I dated a woman who couldn't believe that I had never seen Lord of the Rings, and that didn't end it. It ended for other reasons, but she was like, "This can't happen." The fact that your dad read this and then somebody makes a film, I mean, that's got to be an amazing experience. Has to be.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So,
honestly, it's funny too because every year at Christmas, basically, I always took him to see all the movies, right? I took him to see all six. And I have to admit, by the time that the third Hobbit movie came around, we were both kind of exhausted. And we were both like, we went to go see the Battle of Five Armies, not because we were desperate to see it, but just because we were like, we saw the other five. We kind
Too
of
much invested.
Yeah, it was like watching the Star Wars prequels. Like, well, let's just finish it.
Yeah, you got to finish it. You got to finish it in the theater. But yeah, no, I mean, in the extended version, the funny thing about the extended versions is like there are a couple of scenes that I think that really do add some stuff there, and a lot of stuff that they created whole cloth. Like for example, Liv Tyler's character and her romance with Aragorn is that's only mentioned in the appendices at the end of the third book.
Right.
Like she's mentioned like twice in the actual books and in passing. But I mean, I love the fact that they said, "Hey, let's make her a more prominent character. Let's bring a little bit of this past into it, and things like that." There's a lot of things like that where I thought they took they took a lot of liberties, but I agree with all the liberties. I've said before here, I'm not a purist in a lot of these things, even with something that I love so much. I mean, quite frankly, I got super excited and, I got the audio book out of the library. I'm listening to it again.
Nice.
for Fellowship because it's, because it is so different. But like, yeah, I can't say enough. And like I said, I love the fact that in the first one, even though some of the special effects still look a little janky, especially like when they do like a group shot and they got the four hobbits with everybody there.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious those guys are superimposed on there. I love the fact that they did a lot of practical things, just camera tricks.
What about all that forced perspective?
Yeah, that was
did?
pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was,
I mean,
I'm not going to lie, that was fun to watch, okay?
Yeah.
To how they did all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all it was. Fun to
But
watch.
I mean, I would throw this out there. I mean, I think that we should have started you off on the theatrical just because it's
because I'm pissed now. Now I'm like, oh, you guys are just trolling me. Literally trolling.
I mean, that was true.
It is.
That's why I picked the
think it's-
extended version.
I will say I think the extended versions are for people who really, really like
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Me.
Because
Like I love it. I don't own the theatricals. I don't need to because
Right.
You're at home. You can break it up in over 6 nights and watch all 3.
Well, to your point, the extended versions didn't make the films any better, but it was more like if you're fans of the book, because
If
there's
you
so
love
much
the
more from the book,
characters.
it's like fan service. So you look for a little bit more, but it did not make the films. I think the theatrical versions are pretty perfect the way they did them. They didn't need to be longer. So but it was still fun to go back and watch it. And there is a little more character development. There's a little more background information that you get. Some of it not good. I mean, they made Boromir look the extended version made him look creepier much earlier than so
I
you don't
didn't think
quite
he was served
believe.
by it.
Yeah, you don't believe that the ring really took him over. Like he started kind of that way. And that the extended version kind of showed that. So I didn't like that because when he died, it was much a more noble thing, Anyway, I want to hear from
that kind of made him more human though, because I don't know how much of this Ralph would get out of watching the movie because I don't think they're super clear about it until you see more of the story. But Boromir's father rules Gondor. He's the steward of Gondor because the king spoiler alert, hasn't returned.
Right.
And so Boromir doesn't know who Viggo Mortensen is, and then he realizes, oh, you're the heir to the guy who would take the throne from my father as his rightful throne.
Gondor has no king and doesn't need one.
Right,
Exactly.
and because and also he's the direct descendant of the man whose broken sword he's holding, which we saw at the beginning of the movie, is the man who defeated Sauron and then didn't destroy the ring and caused all this to happen, 2,500 years later and all this kind of stuff. So Boromir is very insecure, and I think you'll meet his brother later, and his brother is not a copy of the character, but is a reflection of some of the things, and you'll spend more time with him, and I think it's really kind of interesting the way they do that. But a lot of that is stuff like what you were saying, Sean, or I'm sorry if it was Sean or Chris, about like Liv Tyler's character isn't really in the story. That's Glorfindel and some other character. They did the same thing in Game of Thrones. They'd combine these three characters, and that doesn't bother me. What I was so thrilled about with this when I first saw it and to the present is, an adaptation is making choices. If you were to do a straight copy of what actually happens in the book, the way that the first couple of Harry Potter movies are, it's not a good movie, because J.R.R. Tolkien wrote these books because he loved to tell these stories as much as he loved to create languages and maps and cultures and genealogies and all these things. So it's not wrong for some people who say, as a good thing or a bad thing, that Lord of the Rings is a lot of walking from place to place. And then what do we do in this place, and where are we going next? And by the way, down there is a road, and it goes to this farm. And 3 generations of this farmer did this thing, and then they were also related to that thing with this magic. Like, that's just what the story is. It doesn't serve a movie. So the fact that it felt like we were transported to this other world of Middle Earth the whole movie, and I believed it, I didn't mind the stuff that was missing as far as like, oh, it didn't make it over. Right. The Tom Bombadil thing, that's a character that everybody complained, oh, he's not in the movie. Ralph, he was basically a super powered magic guy who they did mushrooms with and hung out with him and his wife. And that doesn't fit into anything else in the movie. And you don't miss that because you don't know that it's there. I think of all the extended versions, the Fellowship of the Ring is probably the least essential material, except for the gifting scene, but I still think it's good stuff. I think it's 28 extra minutes in Fellowship, 44 in Two Towers, and 1 hour and 4 minutes in Return of the King. I think the Two Towers extended stuff makes the movie that is fantastic even better. The Return of the King, I honestly haven't watched it in a long time, so I don't remember exactly what the extended stuff added, but I know when I first watched it, I did say what I said at the beginning, which is it was just an opportunity to spend more time with these people for the last time, and I didn't mind that. But I think adaptation is really hard, and I think that they made decisive choices. They also didn't say, well, these people are going to be upset that we included this or we didn't include that or any of those kind of things. They went their own way, and they did it right, and they did it respectfully. And if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff, all these people working on these movies are clearly on every level. This is the greatest thing I'll ever be part of. I can't believe how privileged I am to act in it. The actors got the matching tattoos. Yeah. Like, even if you
the guy who got fired from playing Strider, did he get a tattoo?
No, I don't think he got a tattoo. But like, if you watch the interviews of the guys who did the Foley work, like they went out to high tension electric lines and banged on them with wrenches to get the sounds of the arrows flying through the air. And listening to them, watching them do it, and listening to them talk about it, they're so excited. They're so thrilled to be part of it. And
did they know as they were shooting? Did they know they were shooting all 3 of these films when they started?
Oh yeah. No, there were days where you'd shoot scene 4 of the second movie.
So they knew. So they knew they were shooting all 3.
Yeah, they shopped it around to all the different studios for the one film, and then New Line said, "Okay, I'll fund it, but you got to do all 3 at the same time." Their intent wasn't to film all at once. If the first one was a bust, they weren't going to film the other 2. But the producer said, if you film them all at once, I'll finance all 3. So they had a plan before that first film started. They had to have a plan for all 3 movies. Yeah. And frankly, the casting was like perfection as far as who they put in each role. You know what I mean? It was pretty amazing, because this was a big commitment. I don't know how long they were in New Zealand, but they were there for 18 months.
That's for all 3.
That's for all 3.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. But when I watch interviews or read about these people, they all say this was the greatest experience of their lives.
Sure.
From an acting perspective.
They knew they were part of something special. Obviously.
And it was done right. And I mean, it's funny because I remember seeing an interview Jackson did this really cool thing, which I thought was really neat. What he did was he took all the storyboards, right? Or at least the storyboards for the first film. And he had a bunch of actor friends read the script to the storyboards, right? And that's what he was showing to the different studios. And he said he actually came up with a way to do the film in 2 films, to do the trilogy in 2 movies. But then when he showed everything to New Line, they were like, no, you got to make it 3. And it's funny too, speaking of The Hobbit, he originally wanted The Hobbit to be 2 movies.
Right.
But New Line was, no, man. We're not going to let you make 2 when we could make 3 and we know we're going to make cash. And they did.
Remember that the 2 movie thing came from one of the people who is still a credited producer on the movie named Harvey Weinstein. And Harvey Weinstein was like, well, we'll make it at Miramax, but we'll only do it as 2 movies. And fortunately, he was too occupied being a disgusting rapist that he was not able to get his way on that. And New Line, as you said, is the one that came through and said, we'll do it right. And then Harvey and Bob stay on as executive producers. I mean, if you watch the credits, before you get to the, the names of all the fans and stuff at the end of the extended edition, there are a lot of people on every level of this movie. It's really, it's an incredibly big project, which is very special.
And think about if you're in the New Zealand film community, which is not a gigantic film community, and then you make this 3 monster blockbusters there, and they're going to be big movies, and you're doing work, and the work is good. Could hardly be anything more exciting than that.
But not only that, but how many people travel to New Zealand after these movies to see those locations?
Oh yeah.
I mean, people would
you
never
go now
thought
and
to
visit
go.
the Shire if you want.
I know.
But then again, when they shot in Australia, when they shot Island of Dr. Moreau, didn't that take 18 months too? Or it only felt like that?
That had an extra director, though.
That's a classic.
But the other thing Drew said that I think is right. Look, today's movies, and I complain about this all the time, and you guys mock me, but that's okay. People make shows and movies based on existing IP, and they don't give a crap about the fans. They don't care. They don't care what the fans think because I'm going to make my own movie. Peter Jackson revered these books, understood how fans felt about it, and the word Drew used, and I love that word, was respectful to the fans while still ensuring that this was going to be a mass audience movie, not just the little corners of people who have read the books, right? So there were enough changes made to make it more
Be honest, that was
accessible.
not a little corner of people reading these books. That was
No,
not a
but I'm
little
saying
corner.
that you got people to this film.
Well, there's a little passionate corner for sure.
Yeah,
There is.
well, it's
But
not
what
a
I'm
little.
saying-
It's a
But
big
they would
passion.
have an opportunity to be vocal on
mean-
the internet that they wouldn't have had if he'd made the
That's
movie
right.
20 years earlier.
That's right. So that was a big part of why this was successful because he took that responsibility very seriously, and it shows in the film.
But
What were you going to say, Rob?
Well, I mean, they've got who played the bad guy that
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee
Yeah.
Saruman, yeah.
was a huge Tolkien fan. He had the book
Yeah.
at
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing, like reading quotes from the book while everybody.
Yeah.
So everybody had that passion for this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in this movie, but Christopher Lee was like in World War II, and he was like a special forces, and he was in some movie, and they cut someone's throat, and they had the sound effect, and he goes, "No, that's not what it really sounds like." I didn't know what that was in this film, but apparently that's a great story about him.
But it's funny.
Imagine being Christopher Lee, and he's done all these, and he like caps his career with like this monster, films. I don't think he's in the third one, but it's what a thing for him, and he already played all those Hammer films. If you were ever a guy that wanted to make a living the rest of your life just going to like those fan shows and things like that, you start, anybody who was in this film will always be able to make a living. You know what I mean?
Well, Ralph, did you know that Sean Connery got offered Gandalf? And he turned it down because he didn't get it. That's why he did the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, because he turned down The Matrix.
Well, that was
and
a
he
good
turned down
choice.
this film.
I love that film. But
I didn't
also,
get either one.
I sit here and
He
talk
would've been
about how
good.
much I hate this fantasy, and then Highlander just like is one of my favorite.
Which one?
The
There
first
can
one.
be
There
only
can only
one.
be one.
There's only one, I
there
thought.
can
Did
only
they
be
make a
one.
sequel? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. They're making
Clan
a
MacLeod.
remake. What's his name? Superman is going to play in the new
Henry
Highlander.
Cavill?
Yeah. They're remaking that. But yeah, so I as much as I piss and moan about fantasy films, I have a couple that I like, but I get, and this is again after talking to people who grew up with this stuff, I have a more of appreciation. I'm not a big reader, so obviously I didn't, that didn't appeal to me at all. But I can understand, and Peter Jackson definitely, he has reverence for. Like you talk about King Kong, I know you didn't like it, and it was 3 hours, but he had reverence for that film. It was out of respect for that, who that, and same with didn't he do Pacific Rim as well?
No, that was
Peter
Guillermo
Jackson?
del Toro.
The different guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, Jackson's one of those guys that's detailed, and I was getting caught up in the CGI stuff during the fights when the big monsters are coming in. I could, you see all that stuff. But
Like when they jump on the back of the troll, you can tell it's not
that big troll that they're they're dealing with ping pong balls and all.
It's funny you say that, because to me a lot of the CGI, it still looks fantastic. The compositing,
it's not bad.
What's kind of it takes a beating as you get to a higher resolution, frankly.
Yeah.
And it's not its fault. Like it doesn't bother me. I didn't think the scene where they're on the steps as they break down when they're trying to escape the Balrog, and the steps are leaning forward, and we're gonna, like, a lot of that, it didn't look quote unquote real. But if you watch King Kong from 1933, you don't watch that movie because it's photorealistic depiction of a gigantic gorilla. You watch it because look what they made, and it's this incredible thing.
But it's
and I kind of feel the same way, right? But
That's
I mean,
true.
this movie's 23 years old, and effects don't. Would I?
Well, when did
Peter
Jurassic
Jackson
Park
not
come
doing?
out? Jurassic Park is
93.
1993 or
93. Yeah, 93.
And you know
but
what?
I appreciate Peter Jackson has not gone back and said, I'm just going to spruce this up. He supervised the 4K transfer, so some things, colors and things he may have played with, things like that, but he hasn't said like, well, we've got to redo the special effects for this whole scene, and now it's a different movie.
shot first.
Yeah, I mean, it's just silly, and I'm glad that he has resisted that, because he was already a very interesting filmmaker before he became the world famous director.
100%.
I mean, he did everything from Dead Alive or Brain Dead to The
Frighteners.
Beautiful Creatures.
Frighteners, Beautiful
I
Creatures,
love
which
the
was
Frighteners.
the breakthrough for him and for Kate Winslet. I mean, he's a fascinating guy. That's why he was such an interesting choice to do it, and to picture him and his wife Fran Walsh and their writing partner Philippa Boyens, picture them just sitting in a room and coming up with all this and doing it right, and then look what they did with it. It's just astonishing.
It's an amazing feat, and for me, I always talk about on our Indian podcast, it's all the money's on the screen, and for sure he doesn't skimp on this stuff at all. And if it's a subject you like, great. If it isn't, like me, I appreciate it. Now, if you guys want to, whoever we spin to, if you want to go to the next one, I am not opposed to keeping this going. I'm not,
Great.
But as long as we stay off the extended.
A lot more Gollum in the next one.
Well, I want to see. That's what I was waiting
Lots
for.
of
I was
Gollum.
waiting for all this prank.
No, they just tee that up. You see little shadows.
I understand.
Well, I want to say something that is
My precious.
just as a thank you to John and a thank you to Ralph for agreeing to play along. When I sat down to watch this, I realized I have not actually sat down and watched these movies in many years. I don't remember the last time I sat down and watched it. And when they came out in the theaters, I saw the first one like 3 times. I saw the second one once, and then before the third one came out, they actually put the extended edition
versions
at the Senator, and I was able to see it there. Yeah, amazing. And then the Return of the King, I saw at least twice in the theater, and I've seen them since then, and I've certainly seen scenes, and I love the soundtrack. They did a complete score release of all the movies. It's just spectacular music. But to sit down, I haven't watched it in years. I got the 4K discs because they were like $40 for Black Friday or something. And to sit there and watch them at home, I told Kelly, I said, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to watch the second half of this movie. It's going to be loud, so just tell me if stuff starts coming off the walls. But she didn't mind. And it was so wonderful to come and revisit these movies, and the music especially. It's just...
Well, I was going to ask all of you guys this question. Is this something you guys rewatch once a year, every 5 years?
Like Drew said,
not
when it
regularly
comes on
enough
TV,
for me, apparently.
When it comes
on
on
I would
TV,
watch it
I'll
regularly.
watch scenes from it, but very rarely have I watched the whole thing in a long time. This was the first time.
I haven't watched it in a long time, but I will say that there have been times where I've never quite done it, but every once in a while I'll try to watch all 3 in one day. Just to really go for it.
Man, that's some commitment right there, boy.
I need to get snowed in for that, I think.
Like this is of course all before I had children. I tried to do that. But no, I mean,
have your kids watched this one yet?
No, because I haven't really one. It's pretty scary. And my daughter wouldn't do well with the goblins and the orcs and the
Your
herbs.
There's
kids
some
watch
scary
Mr.
stuff.
Beast. Your kids watch Mr. Beast on YouTube, and you're worried about this?
Mr. Beast? What are you talking about? Mr.
He's
Beast is like
nice.
the
He's
guy
nice.
who does like
Mr.
weird
Beast.
I'm
challenges.
just saying. I'm just
If
saying.
you
Come on,
subscribe, it
these
might give you a
these
Tesla.
kids are these kids.
Exactly.
Getting water.
Have you not
purification
read?
system
So you
for
haven't read these? You
world
haven't read these
countries?
books to your kids, Chris?
I'm about halfway through The Hobbit, so reading it to my kids.
My fifth
They're
grade
more than
teacher
cap-
read it to our class. That's how I
yeah.
learned about the
No,
Hobbit.
they're
I
more
never
than
heard of it.
capable of reading it, but just funny. So you mentioned Drew earlier. You mentioned Harry Potter, and it's funny because Harry Potter came out around Thanksgiving, and this came out around Christmas time, and it went that way for I think the first three of each, obviously.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's funny. I remember my friend who'd never read The Lord of the Rings was a huge Harry Potter fan, and he's like, I think Harry Potter's gonna beat out The Lord of the Rings. And I looked at him and I was like, Judd, Lord of the Rings has got 50 years worth of nerds. Not just like six, or whatever Harry Potter was at the time. And he's like, okay, you have a good point. But no, yeah, I'm super excited to revisit the second one again. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah,
right, well,
all these nerds in the Amazon series essentially flopped. It was by considering.
Well, let's see. They iced Peter Jackson out. They didn't
Well,
want him to have anything to do with it. Which
yeah, they
was a
wanted
big
to go their
mistake.
own way, and it's
Yeah.
funny. The tough thing about the rings, tough thing about that one, or the Rings of Power. The hardest thing about that is it's like, yeah, you have to stop sometimes. Like even I read the books a couple of times. You have to stop and you have to go look up like what they're talking about.
Well, because they didn't own any of the main stuff. They only owned what was the
Silmarillion.
No,
Is
I
it,
think
in,
or the
is it in the
appendix.
Silmarillion, or is it even outside of that?
I think
It's
it's
outside
outside
of
of that, right?
I think
Yes,
they
outside.
own one of the There's like
Yeah.
3 or 4 appendices at the end of Return of
So
the
they
King.
couldn't refer to a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Listen,
so
part
they
of the
only-
other reason I want to do these three is my friend Darcy Wilkins promised that if I watch these 3 films, she'll watch The Godfather 3, and we can talk about that.
So you have to watch all 3.
She has to.
No, you have to watch all 3 before
Yes.
she'll watch.
Yes.
You're going to make her
Yes.
watch Godfather 3?
Yes.
Well, he can't miss Return of the King, so she
it's
has to
not.
watch
Wait,
the.
wait,
The
wait.
extended,
I
the
hear-
extended, the
The
director's
extended
cut.
version was better than the.
I was about to say the final. I haven't seen.
I
it
agree
yet,
with that.
but
It's still a
the
bad
extended version
film.
is better.
But anyway,
I've
that's
never
that's
seen the
that's
third
for
one.
another show if we even do that.
Yeah,
so
still bad.
all right. So if you guys obviously
I give it 2 furry feet.
Are we putting it under the
Thoroughly
tree?
enjoyed that.
okay, yeah. As furry feet go, there's a lot
Is
of
it
furry
not
feet in this
guilty?
one. All right, you guys all love it. I listen. I'm willing to do the other 2, to watch the other 2. So as long as we don't do the extent. Now, when we spin it, you decide. If you don't want to do it, that's fine too.
But Ralph, you have to admit whether you enjoyed the film or not. In your
I
head.
have to admit. I have
No,
to.
no.
admit.
What I'm asking is, from a filmmaking standpoint, you have to love that, right? From a filmmaking standpoint, forget the film and the fantasy
Oh,
and
no,
all
of
that.
course.
Just from
Guess
the.
how annoying it must be to do that forced perspective all the time.
I
that they
can't-
do.
it's
I
amazing.
love that. I love that Ian McKellen bumped his head by accident in the thing, and
They
kept
left it in,
yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yes, obviously he is
Yeah.
a master, a master.
And it's got. If you've never seen the making of the film, you should go rabbit hunting on YouTube because it's incredible how they
I don't
made
really.
the film.
Yeah, you know what?
No, you wouldn't care from a filmmaking.
No,
standpoint.
don't care
Okay.
because I'm never going to get there. I can't do it. You know, it's
Okay.
done.
I wish there was a serial killer in it because that could go down.
That might have helped.
Yeah.
Although, isn't Gollum? Gollum, isn't he kind of nasty?
No, Gollum is
Oh,
an
he's super
anti-hero.
Oh boy. Are
Wait
you telling
for the
me?
next 2 movies.
Okay. All right. I don't want to. I don't want to know. Bye. I don't want to know.
I think so.
All right, so let's spin the wheel for whoever gets next, and then you guys can tell me what you want to do, and then we'll do a little round, a quick round. By the way, please keep it to one thing. What'd you watch? Okay.
What's our
One
time
thing.
limit? Because you want the banter.
35 seconds.
Okay,
each.
35
Okay.
seconds. Okay.
35 seconds of banter by yourself.
By your no. Just keep it to one thing. That's all I'm asking. But let's go to the wheel first, okay? So there we go. What's that? Something fell in the
Look
back?
at that good-looking trio right there. Looks like
trio.
a singing
All right.
group.
I
A
think we
folk
know.
singing group right there.
Here we go.
Look, all of our hair is nice and dark.
I'm telling you what, man. Look at these young guys.
I know.
Ah. There you go,
It's
Sean.
me.
You're
It's
up there.
me.
Boy.
I want to thank the Academy for letting me win this wheel.
All right. Wow. You going to tell us now, or are you going to wait? Is it going to be the next one, or?
Yeah, I think, let's do Two Towers, but let's do the real version of it, the theatrical.
What do you mean the real, the
version.
theatrical?
theatrical.
Thank you.
The
Okay.
theatrical version.
All right.
All right.
It's,
I do have one announcement to make.
Because I started watching it already.
Okay.
As soon as the first film ended.
That's great. I can't wait to watch it. I'm just kidding, but I'll watch it. I have an announcement to make. As the showrunner, I have an idea for we have February, Valentine's Day is coming up. We normally, we get our spouses and stuff, but I think we're going to do a special edition, and I'm slating Barbie in for Valentine's Day. So, John, you're welcome to join us. You and Rose are welcome to join us. I expect you will join us.
I actually believe I'm going to be away that week.
No, I think you can't. That's not fair.
No. I'm going to be away that week.
Be a professional.
I am.
We are going to look at Barbie since it got a couple Oscar noms today. So that's all I'm going to say. So now let's do a quick round, lightning round of what did you watch? Let's start with Sean. Sean, what did you watch?
New season of True Detective is beginning, so
Right.
I'm going to wait for more episodes to drop, and I started rewatching season 1 again, which I thought was one of the best serial.
That is the season for that one, yeah.
And I had already previously watched season 2 twice because I didn't like it the first time, and I'm like, I'm going to watch it again. Maybe I'll like it better.
Was it worth returning to?
No. But now, so I just finished up season 1. It was great. Woody Harrelson and
Matthew McConaughey.
And
All right,
season 3 was really good. So I'm working my way through season 3 now, and then I want to.
I heard it's a direct link to season 1, the storyline.
Oh, that would be great. I would like to see that.
I've read that. It's not a spoiler, but I've read that. So, all right. Thank you for being so short, Chris.
I revisited a movie that I really enjoyed based on a Nick Hornby book. It's called Juliet Naked. It's a romantic comedy. If you ever read anything by Nick Hornby, he did most notably High Fidelity and another movie called About a Boy. Both excellent films, both great books. And Juliet Naked is really great. It stars Chris O'Dowd and Rose Byrne as a British couple. And Chris O'Dowd is a guy who is obsessed with an alternative rock star who had one kind of, modestly successful album, who's played by everyone's favorite Ethan Hawke. I love
Ethan Hawke. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's great. So Ethan Hawke, basically what it is, it's about this guy, and we would like it because it also deals with small internet communities.
Very small.
Yeah. Well, no, there's actually a scene where, she's the woman writes this review of this thing that comes up, and she's like, "Look, 18 people agree with me." And I was like, "Hey, that's like us."
Exactly.
So I highly recommend it. It's funny. It's
hey,
clever.
look, there's a lot of people leaving YouTube now. I think our space is about to happen. I think we're about to hit.
Maybe we'll fill the. Fill it.
Fill the void. Fill the void.
Are they all going over to Truth Social?
No, they're just
Going to Rumble.
tired.
A lot of them going to Rumble.
Moving. No, well, that's a different set of people. But all right, Drew.
I don't
Drew,
know
what do you
why.
watch?
Yeah.
Well, Chris, before I say anything, do you want to tell us your thoughts on Mughal-e-Azam?
No, I'm going to keep those to myself.
Okay, we'll do a very special episode.
Meaning he hasn't watched it yet.
I sat down
That's
and watched all 3 Lord of the Rings trilogy in 12 hours, but I don't have time to watch that other movie.
So I watched a movie that has come up in What Did We Watch previously on the show. It's been on my list for a while. Todd Haynes' new movie, May December. I actually got a screenwriting nomination today, I think, for original screenplay, even though it's clearly inspired by a true story.
Yeah.
Whereas Barbie got an adapted screenplay because it's based on the description on the box.
Actual toy.
So whatever. I thought May December was as a movie, I thought it's a good movie and it's worth watching. The way that it's made, the techniques that Todd Haynes uses to tell the story are fascinating and entertaining, and a lot of zooms, and the music is great and everything. The acting of the 3 leads is wonderful, but everybody in the movie is great. They're kids, all these types of things. And the way that you can't decide. It's not about like what happened or what do people think of this, this terrible story that happened in their community. It's more about how people justify themselves, or maybe they can't even help but justify themselves because that's how damaged that they are. And there's a couple of scenes, especially an acting class in high school Q&A scene, that it's just among the most inappropriate stuff I've ever seen in a movie that wasn't actually nudity or anything. It's just like, wow, they really went for it. And Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, they didn't get nominated for the movie for the Oscars, but they have gotten other nominations, and they are just great. And Todd Haynes, we did his movie Carol, and he's done a number of interesting stuff over the years. I still haven't seen his Mildred Pierce with Kate Winslet, but I would like to do that. He did Barbie already. So
that scene he shoots in the dress shop when Julianne Moore's daughter's getting a prom dress.
Amazing.
The mirror, the way he used those mirrors to set that scene up, because it's disconcerting and genius. I mean, it's just a beautiful scene.
And also, I mean, no one in my family, as far as I know, had sexually abused or ended up marrying a child, but the whole thing about like, oh, you're so brave that you show your arms like that, and for my high school graduation, my mom gave me a scale, stuff like that.
Yeah,
that was very familiar.
No, she was
and awful,
I'm
real.
sorry, because that one.
It was really kind of it was amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I was.
No, I saw that film. I enjoyed the film. Like
it's worth a watch.
It doesn't sound like something to enjoy.
By enjoy,
well, you can revel in the filmmaking for sure.
I mean,
I appreciate just the way they shoot it,
and that's because we had just seen Carol too, and I was all caught up in the way he shoots through mirrors and windows and stuff, and he continued that in this one as well. It's just really good. So, John,
I watched a Netflix documentary called "The Dick and I: 100 Years of Full Frontal Nudity in Films."
Nice. You did? Did you sit
quite
through
excellent?
It?
I found the storyline a little limp, but anyway.
Wow.
I watched.
You're such a dick.
I don't know if I said this or not, but I finished Legacy of Monsters about the Godzilla.
I did too.
I liked the first few episodes. I love Kurt Russell. I thought it really petered. I thought the special effects were good for a TV movie, but it definitely petered at the end, and the Scooby-Doo thing just kind of made me sick. The thing I just finished watching was Reacher. And Reacher was great. I will say the last episode was rushed and a little anticlimactic for me. But the series itself, it's such a good show. And you know how I feel about modern stuff today. No messages in it. The women in it are strong, but they don't have to announce that they're strong.
They stay in the kitchen? They stay in the kitchen?
He is a masculine hulk of a man, and Alan Richardson just
women in the kitchen, guns
fits
on your
this
hip.
role. Yeah, the women are in the kitchen, Ralph. The women kick ass in this show, but Alan Richardson is so perfect in this role.
What's his name, Drew?
It's Alan Richson.
Richson. I thought it was Richardson.
There's no Richard.
Richardson.
If you're gonna talk about the man and his very large expanse of firm flesh, you should name him properly.
I hope, and I don't know if any of you other guys have seen it. Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Sean?
No, I saw season 1.
Okay,
I was waiting for season 2 to drop.
I'm hoping they're already announced they're going to do season 3, but I'm hoping they make a Reacher movie with him in it because I think he's that good and it deserves.
I still like the Tom Cruise ones though.
I do too, but he's not Reacher, and the ratings for this have been phenomenal, like through the roof.
I thought the second season was a significant step down from the first season. I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think they must have changed their stunt team because the fights and stuff are just not as spectacular. And also, it's the same thing that happened with the movies. Jack Reacher, I've only read a couple of the books, but the guy's whole thing is I'm a lone wolf. I'm out in the world alone. And so in the first Reacher movie and in the first Reacher series, he doesn't have a lot of allies. And he doesn't seem like someone that you really want to be an ally with, except he does the right thing and he uses violence with comfort. The second Jack Reacher movie, it should have been like the 7th one when they ran out of ideas. Did you know he had a secret kid kind of nonsense? And this one, this had the same sort of thing where they said, oh, here's all the people that he used to be friends with and something's happening. I was like, well, no, I don't need Reacher to have buddies. So like it was fine.
Evil twin.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you because that's the thing about the books. I said to Ralph, it's like the Incredible Hulk, right? Bill Bixby would go to a town. He didn't know anybody. He'd Hulk out. That's what the Reacher books are. He doesn't know anybody. He finds somebody. He sleeps with a lot of different women. But the whole thing is he's a lone wolf with no ties.
And Alan
And-
Rickson is just magnetic. I mean, he is just so much fun to watch. I think if you want a good action series, the first season especially is just really entertaining.
And you
But it was worth
believe
watching the
you
second one.
believe that this guy, when he fights, could do the damage that he actually does. And I like the Tom Cruise movies. Don't get me wrong, but you don't believe that this 5'8" guy at 180 can do the kind of damage that this 6'5" guy at 250 is going to do. It's just not the same. And
Well, except that the whole tone of that is like, you wanted this. I mean, I told
Right.
you what I'm going
Right.
to do to you,
Right.
and you believed me.
That's right.
And you, as an audience member, you believe him, and then he does what he says he's going to do, and you're like, yeah, that was horrific, and they were warned. So
well, that's like
fun.
the jail cell in the first season. He goes, "Listen,
Oh my
fat
God,
boy,
man.
you're going to get out of here. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, boom, boom,
Yeah.
down."
Yeah, he
Just
hits
great.
a lot of people with his face, and
Yeah.
he does something that is also in the Jack Reacher movie when Jack Reacher's fighting those two brothers in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You end up hitting somebody with somebody else's head.
Right.
Like there's
That
a
could
lot
be
of that.
concussions.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway,
fun.
so that's what I watched. I loved it. I thought it was great. Again, the last episode, well, it was okay. A little rushed, a little anticlimactic for the bad guy that they built up through the whole series, but it was still really good. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right. One of our original podcasters, Hassan, kept talking about a film as one of his favorite comedies, drama films that he had ever seen. And I never watched it. I'd never seen it. And,
Wise.
No. And now that we watch Lord of the Rings, it's a little cross-platform. Elijah Wood is in a tiny little film called The Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, which I had
Carrey?
never seen.
Yeah. Kate
Jim
Winslet,
Carrey,
right?
Kate Winslet, Elijah Wood,
Charlie Jones.
Mark Ruffalo,
Is it Kirsten Dunst?
Kristen Dunst, Tom Wilkinson, who just passed away. I have now. It's an amazing film. I'm just going to say it. Written by Charlie Kaufman, directed by some French
Charlie Kaufman,
director.
yeah.
I don't know who the director was.
Spike Jones.
No, a French guy. John, have you seen it?
No.
Have
love
you
the
guys
line
seen it?
in it? Yeah.
Oh,
He
yeah,
asked
great.
Wilkerson.
Michelle Gondry.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like, based on what I did see of it, did seem like a movie that I would be into.
I
think you
didn't
would
watch
really
it.
like it.
I didn't
think
watch
you
it
would.
because of Jim Carrey.
To
be honest.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me.
And oh my God, I absolutely adore this film. The way
This is they erase memories, right? Is
they
that
do,
what it
but
is?
the whole movie's basically memories are being erased as the movie's going on. And the way they stage it, and the way it all works out is just an amazing film. I was crying. I was literally crying at the end because
That's beautiful.
because of their relationship.
Wow.
and what they were up against. And that brings me to the Elijah Wood. Have you guys ever seen I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore? With the woman?
Yes.
Okay. The woman who was in To the End of the World, the Pedro Pascal, the zombie thing that just came out.
Yeah.
Last of Us.
The Last of Us. There was one woman who ran a town. That actress.
He runs like St. Louis, yeah.
Right.
Something.
That actress who was also in Shattered Glass, and she's peppered throughout. She was also in this one called I Don't Feel at Home in This World
You
Anymore.
mean Melanie Linsky, star of
That's
Peter
the one.
Jackson's Heavenly
That's-
Creatures?
That's her. 2017, she did this film with Elijah Wood, and you guys should check this one out too.
It's
It's
good to
amazing.
watch.
But
She's
Eternal
amazing.
Sunshine.
She's also Yellow Jackets, lots of other stuff.
So here's what I do. I have a player. I have Blu-rays and I have HD
Not Kate
DVs.
Winslet.
You guys know what HD DVs are?
Yes.
That's
it's like
that's
the vinyl of high def
Exactly.
physical media.
They came out the same time that Blu-rays came out, right? So I have a collection of those. But the problem with those is players they failed because the discs never play. But I have this combo player that plays both Blu-rays and these HD DVs.
You must
And
have the
last
only
night-
one.
That's right. And last night I decided I'm going to watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I put it in. I get completely into it, 20 minutes in, and it just freezes and stops.
Yeah.
The machine just stopped. So now I'm scrambling, and I look on my Plex. Oh, I have it, but I only have the commentary. So I rented it on Prime last night.
It's not streaming anywhere?
It's on Prime. You have to rent it. I don't know. Maybe I could get it, but it's an amazing film. I loved it. Jim Carrey was great. The director took her aside and said, "You're doing a broad comedy." He grabbed Jim Carrey and said, "You're doing a drama," and they put the two together. And Kate Winslet, she says it's her favorite film she ever did. She is so charming and so out of her mind. It's just an amazing piece of work.
It was probably great for her to be on a film not directed by James Cameron, who was constantly belittling her all the time.
She's, I've seen her in extras with Richard Gervais.
Oh my
and
God,
stuff.
she's so funny in that.
She is so seems so down. And that thing she did, Mayor of Eastwick or Mayor
She was
of
excellent in that.
Mayor of Easttown was great.
Yeah.
Easttown. She's amazing. And Jim Carrey.
He was in The Witches of Eastwick?
No.
No.
Mayor
That's
she
the
would have been
crossover
great.
show. That's
With
great.
Alan
Mayor-
Richardson?
Which mayor?
But
of
even
Easttown?
Jim Carrey was great in this film. Because I hated him in the one we did.
Truman Show.
Truman Show.
Hated it. He was great. Anyway, that's way
Yeah,
over
we actually
35
we actually
seconds.
did a Michel Gondry movie on this show previously. We did Be Kind Rewind. The
Oh,
Jack
that
Black
was his.
movie.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is a very sort of like
Yeah, it's way
whimsical,
quirky,
but
yeah.
about real sweet emotional truths.
Yeah.
I guess, and also just what a fun movie to watch. Eternal Sunshine is significantly more heartbreaking, but just beautiful movie.
That have you?
It's a
So
great
you know the
idea
scene.
for a
The
movie,
scene
too.
where they're playing the cassettes to each other is just like,
Yeah.
oh my.
I mean,
God.
it's a really special movie.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it in a long time, but not as long as Lord of the Rings, maybe or more. I don't know. I'll have to watch it
there
again.
you go. Well, so now it's Two Towers.
Two Towers.
Two Towers
theatrical
next show.
release.
Theatrical. I can do the short.
And you
one.
know,
That's
Ralph,
right.
this was a film
Do
I
the
used to watch
short
all the time editing. You know how there are certain films you would watch.
Oh, so you
were
while
editing?
you're editing, you played this in the background.
Yeah, Two
Oh,
Towers.
That's good to know. I can't wait to see this now. Actually, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it. So
I just love there's certain
good.
familiar films I watch. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to pay attention, and you just look when you know something good's going to come.
for me,
up.
it's Michael Clayton. Michael Clayton does that for me.
The ending of that
The
movie,
ending,
I
but
just
the
friggin' love.
scene where they kill Tom Wilkinson's another one.
Oh yeah, when they
Yeah.
inject him through the toes.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway,
Also, I love it when he's like berating her at the end. I'm not the guy you kill. I'm the guy you buy.
oh, my
Yeah.
favorite line there is where in my car.
Yeah.
That's my. All right. So next week, Two Towers.
Two
So
Towers.
It's
Also,
next
late
week,
breaking
Yippee-Ki-Yay.
news.
Yep. What?
Late breaking news. Sauron has won the New Hampshire primary, so we'll see what happens next.
Joe Biden won.
Two Towers.
Joe Biden won the primary. Oh no,
No, he's not in the primary.
That's right,
It's a
because he
Republican primary.
stuck it to New Hampshire.
The Republican primary.
Listen, do me a favor, folks. I know a lot of you don't watch, you don't really comment, but if you could do
Certainly
me
not
one
at this
favor,
point in the show.
please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the share button. Just let us know you're alive. Even just one word in the comment section would be fine.
Yeah.
We're getting like 4 or 5 comments, and one of
SOS.
them's me.
There's a lot of people leaving YouTube. I think we can fill the void. I think we can. So let's go.
As
for
long
that.
as we get at least 5 likes every show is I think the most
at
important.
least
We
5.
don't get.
5, would
Which
be
we
good.
do not
which we
get.
don't always get. That's
Yeah.
why it's a goal. It's a goal.
I don't understand that. But anyway, that says something. All right, so we do next week Two Towers. The following week we do the Cons. My name is
name is
Con.
Con.
My
name is
name
Con.
is Khan.
Chris, you gonna watch that one?
They put
Yes. Is it
no,
okay?
I got something that week. I get parent teacher conference. I'm not going to be able to make that one. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I'll make it.
All right, good.
Oh.
All right.
Is it streaming somewhere? Like, can I find it somewhere?
My
Yeah,
name,
okay,
Khan.
right?
Yeah, it's on.
You can-
Yeah, it
you
is.
can
It is
rent it.
streaming. It is
You can rent
streaming.
it from $4 from Amazon or whatever. So
There you go.
Okay.
it is available.
$4.
Listen, I'll send you some Yippee-Ki-Yay bucks. We send those little.
I also
digital-
want to make one
digital
little
bucks.
announcement. It's a life thing for me, but on January 29th,
That's your birthday.
I am turning 60 years old.
Wow.
And
Mazel tov.
it's
What
the-
else happened?
It's the anniversary of my father's death.
Wow, your
I'm
father
gonna
died
be-
on your birthday.
I can't
I'm
believe he
gonna-
did that to you. Really.
I'm going to
I mean,
have ups and I'm
he's-
going to have downs that
Dad.
day.
Dad is a
Sure.
gangster to do that.
Yeah, but you know what, Ralph?
Could have held
he
on
could have
one
picked
more day.
any of the other kids, but he didn't. He chose me.
That's true.
Yeah, so
He tied
we're
your
linked for
fates
the rest of
together.
our-
Well,
And
I'll be
I-
up there. I'll be up there to celebrate.
I am
celebrate
having a
yours and
weekend-
appreciate his.
A weekend of John
Ugh.
birthday bash, 120 people. It's going to be epic.
Wow.
Going to be epic.
Sounds like fun, man.
Yeah, we're going to send you some pictures, guys. All right, Ralph's going to take some nice photos.
We'll have a few of those. So
Anyway, so I'm going to be 60. So we're going to Ralph.
Maybe we'll
60,
do some shorts.
Sean,
We'll do some
you're over
Yippee-Ki-Yay
60, right?
shorts.
Sean,
What?
you're
He's
over
just
60.
he's barely over 60.
And Chris, how old are you?
50.
50? Oh man, Drew.
30.
47, Grandpa.
Oh my God. Ralph, Sean, and I are going to be in swimming pools with pods at the bottom, just trying to revitalize ourselves.
Like that
So-
hot actor Wilford Brimley. Yeah.
That's right.
He was
Who
42 when he
who
did
was-
that movie.
No, he was
Yes, he
50,
was.
wasn't he? I thought he was 50.
He was 50.
He's
He was
pretty
pretty
Yeah, I
young.
think he was
Pretty
50.
young.
Well, maybe you and Ralph can sit down and watch Gangs of Wasseypur Part 2. Do a little, post
People
for that.
still want us to watch that. And KGF 2 they want us to watch too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I could skip KGF too.
I'd like to have KFC, extra crispy. That's what I'd like.
All right, John, I'll see you this weekend.
Looking forward
everybody-
to it, my friend.
Everybody have a good
Fun.
week.
Get that karaoke voice ready, Ralph.
Let's go.
Have a great
There we
birthday.
go. West Virginia.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.